Of course, another busy weekend at Langsburg and Ovid parishes. Um, three masses yesterday because yesterday was first Saturday. Three masses today because we have confirmations today also. So we're getting our money's worth in. But also today here at Holy Family, we have an extra special occasion also happening during the mass today, and that is this young lady receiving her first Holy Communion today. And so that's a huge thing. I know it's been a long time of preparation and preparing and things like that. Especially, as you watched your sister over the last couple of years, as she moved forward and all that. And I know you were waiting for your opportunity too, and today that's here. And so we're all very happy for you and grateful to your parents as well for making the effort to make sure that you have this sacramental life and that it's practiced. That's important. And so, you know, we're going to pray for you, and also just to know we're very happy that you're able to have this new relationship with Jesus, who loves us so much, that really now it'll be even closer than it's ever been before. And this is a moment that you'll never forget. I think I can speak for most of us. Well, at least I hope I can. I don't remember a lot, my wild misspent youth, but I do remember my first communion day. That's one of the very few clear memories I have from that early on in life. And so this also can be one of those things that you always remember, because life will never be the same after this. And that you're allowing Jesus to come and live in your body, in your mind, heart, and soul in a very, very real way, not just a symbol or a sign, but Jesus, actual Jesus in the Eucharist. And to always make sure he has a place there. That's why we have confession, to prepare that place, to make sure it's ready for him. It's like when you have people over. Do you ever have friends over at your house and your mom makes you clean your room before they come? Yeah, I know. My mom still does the same thing to me. Uh, and I don't have any friends. So it's so it's hard, I know, and but because we want to have the best for when people come over. We want things to look the best they can. So that's why it's important to remember always to make sure your heart and soul are the best that they can be for when Jesus comes in the Eucharist. And so it'll be grateful as well that you have parents that love you enough to bring you to this point, to help prepare you, that you have teachers who care. It means a lot, because everything changes in this world all the time. He's always the same. And no matter how bad things can be and how much we feel alone sometimes and how bad people can hurt us, he'll always love us. And he'll always be there. And he'll always want us. And so that's one of the things you get to experience when you receive communion. And so it's imperative for us, the adults in particular, to ensure that we're giving them the opportunity to practice that sacramental life. The last thing we want to do is lead them to that point and then drop it, especially in the world we live in today. We know it's not always good, fun, or nice. And we have an opportunity to form a soul and a conscience and a mind and a heart and a soul to hopefully turn out better than ours have to this point. And so to not neglect that, that's that important. And to be signs of practicing that faith. That's a big thing, especially for children. They see what their parents are doing, and they're going to follow that example. They're either going to want to be like them, or they're going to not want to be like them because of the example that they're getting. So to make sure we're giving them the best possible opportunity through practice of the sacrament, in particular sacrament of penance, because we know how bad things can be for us in our lives sometimes, to ensure that they always know there's a place they can go to be forgiven. We owe them that. And to make sure that they always realize the Mass is first and the most important thing in our world, because that's where God is found. And then we can bring him with us. And so in the readings today, in the gospel in particular, every week I'll spend a little bit of time praying and asking the good Lord to help me not make a fool of myself for the homily on Sunday and Saturday. And so far, he hasn't totally abandoned me. He's left me hanging a few times, I think, but never abandoned me. And so I always do that, and I'll read the readings for the Mass of the weekend. And so I was reading through them this week. It's like, and I read through the psalm too, because again, that's the word of God also. And I had said on that, the reference for the responsorial psalm, Lord, that your mercy be on us as we place our trust in you. It's a very deep phrase to grasp that. And I already decided that this is what it's going to be about. But yet there's this little voice inside saying, read the gospel again. Read the gospel again. And I know this gospel very well. Okay, I've done north of 300 funerals so far in my life, and this is a common one for funerals, because it is a good, a nice, hopeful gospel about eternal life. So I can recite this gospel to you by memory. That's how many times I've read it. And I'm like, why? I know what it says. Why should I read it again? I know exactly what it says. Every word. I don't need to read it again. But then that voice is saying, read the gospel again and pay attention to a lot of the words that you just kind of take for granted or gloss over a little bit as you're reading. Go, okay, fine, Lord, if that's what you want, that's what I'll do. And so I'm reading it again, and as I get to the first paragraph, bang. I knew right away then what the Lord was trying to tell me through that. And, you'll notice there's one word in here, it's a small word, taken for granted, overlooked, not really accounted for much. But it's repeated 3 times in the first paragraph of the gospel. Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You have faith in God, have faith also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If there were not, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you also may be." That word is place. 3 times Christ emphasizes that. There are many dwelling places in my Father, places where someone can reside, live. There are many dwelling places in my Father's house. I am going to prepare a place for you. And because I'm going to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to myself. And so what does that mean? The thing is that the more I thought about this and meditated and prayed on it, the more the pieces kind of start to fall into place. That this is intimately connected to a particular detail of the life of Christ. That's why he repeats it and drives home this point so much. And what do I mean? Well, let's go back to the infancy of Christ. The Gospel of Luke in particular. Now, Luke's Gospel, the narrative of the birth of Christ, is very interesting because we know that Luke, the evangelist, visited the Blessed Virgin Mary often when she lives with St. John in Ephesus. That's where Luke gets a lot of his details. That's why he has some details the other ones don't possess, because he would meet with Mary and listen and talk to her and things like that. So he's the one that includes in his gospel about the birth of Christ that, and the child Jesus was born and wrapped in swaddling clothes and laid in a manger because there was no place for him at the inn. That's in Luke's gospel. So what does that tell us? That from the very beginning of Christ's life, it's made known to him that there is no place for him in this world of ours that we've created. That's why there's not even a place at the inn, because he's a nobody. Think about it. If he had had a royal name, or an escort of guards, or an army, you can bet they would have found a place at the inn. If his family could have thrown around their weight, their connections, their political ties, whatever, you can bet they would have found a place in the inn. People would have moved to give them a place even. But because they're nobodies, poor on top of that, there's no place for him. This is something that repeats over and over and over again. Shortly after Christ begins announcing the gospel, preaching to the people, says one of the young men runs to him and says, he'll abandon everything and follow. I'll follow you, Lord. I'll leave everything behind. Christ knows this motivation is not pure because he says, birds of the air have their nests, the foxes of the field have their dens, the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Again, he goes back to Nazareth, the town he grew up in, the town he lived in for over 20 years of his life. He goes back to Nazareth. The people know some of the things he's been doing because they ask him, why can't you work some of the miracles here that you've been working in Capernaum and other places? They want a show. They want a song and dance routine, so to speak. They want things done in order for him to deserve their belief. Why? Because he's a nobody. Notice they don't even call him by name. That's meant to be an insult. They don't say, isn't this Jesus, the kid who lived on the street? They don't even say his name. Isn't this the carpenter's son? That's meant to reinforce what they think of him, that he is a no one, not even worthy of saying his name. Isn't this the carpenter's son? And it says, then when Christ refuses to do their song and dance routine, so to speak, they take him to the hill, the cliff on which their town is built, to throw him off. His neighbors and the people he grew up with are telling him, there's no longer any place for you here because you will not do what we want. So we'll just get rid of you. Christ himself said a prophet is never welcome in his own home and never goes back to Nazareth. There's no place for him there. When's the last time Christ was made aware there's no place for him? On Good Friday. The crowd says, not only is there no place for him, they say, away with him, so we don't even want him around us, but on top of that, there's no place for him in the land of the living even, so crucify him. Get him out of our sight, and then kill him to ensure that he's not around us anymore. But who do they have a place for? Barabbas. Give us Barabbas. We want Barabbas. So this gospel takes place shortly before that moment, when the crowd will once again definitively refuse to find a place for Christ in their world, but they will find a place for a murderer. And so Christ knows this, because beforehand he tells his disciples, he says, if the world hates you, know that it hated me first. If they persecute me, they'll persecute you also, he says. But take up your cross and follow me. He says, I've chosen you out of the world. He says, if you were of the world would love what is its own. But because you are not of the world hates you, he says. The world will find no place for you because you refuse to go with the flow of it. And Christ, in his goodness and love, says, but don't let your hearts be troubled, because there are many dwelling places in my Father's house, and I will go and prepare that place for you even. He's talking about his crucifixion. I will go and prepare that place for you. I will die so that you can have that place. And then I'll come back and take you again to myself so that you may have that place. Christ says the world might kick you out and despise you and hate you and all these other things. He says, but I guarantee you a place if you take up your cross and follow me. Now, there's nothing wrong with having things. Money in and of itself is not a bad thing. Popularity in and of itself is not a bad thing. Fame is not a bad thing in and of itself. Because those are all indifferent, soulless, emotionless things. That's all they are. And of themselves are not bad. What happens, though, is that the devil knows that we are weak human beings, so we get a taste of those here and there. Money can buy you a lot. Money can buy you other human beings in our world today, literally and physically. Money can grease a lot of wheels, as they say. Money can exercise power and control. If you have a lot of nice things, you can be the envy of everyone else. People can be jealous of you. You can do pictures on Instagram and all these other things of the places you're going and the planes you're flying on, the people you're meeting with. Fame and popularity are powerful drugs, because once we've had them, we want them again. And then you have this world of people who are willing to sell everything they have, mind, heart, soul, and body, and dignity, just so that people will keep looking at them, or wanting to look at them, or paying to see them. They'll sell everything they have of any value in order to ensure that that happens. And the devil knows we have this weakness, so he'll come along and he'll say, you know what? That Jesus, what has he given you now? How has he gotten you ahead now? How are you more rich and more powerful now? He says, you have nothing. You have less now than you should have. Remember that fame or that power, that privilege, whatever it was that you had? Remember how good that was? The devil says, I can give that to you now. What's one of the temptations he uses against Christ in the desert? I can give you all the kingdoms of the world. People will love you. You will be their master. You will rule the world. I can give this to you, he says, but you have to give me something in return. To us, he just makes a very easy bargain, it seems like. You give me the later place, and I'll give you the now place. Don't worry about later, because later's not here. Get rid of that. Let go of that, whatever Christ says. Don't live like he says you have to live in order to guarantee that place later. He says, what do you want more, the now or the later? And many people, unfortunately, strike that deal, and they will trade their eternal later for the temporary now. Their dignity, their morals, their principles, their values, everything is up for sale if they can have what they want now. And we always forget that this is the worst deal you could ever make. It's the original Ponzi scheme. Because at the end of the day, All that any of us will have left on this earth is a 3 foot by 6 foot piece of ground that we're underneath, and people will walk on us. All that fame and popularity could not prolong our life. All the money and power in the world could not prolong our life. We end up in the same piece of ground everybody else does. But see, that's difficult because we want to have things now. We want to do these things now. And it's hard to say no to myself or no to society or stand against what society is telling me I should go for because I'm more concerned about the later. But I also have to remember that the price that Christ paid so that I could have that place was his very life. He says, this is the value of you. This is the value of that place. This is what I offer. He says, I will die so that you can have it even. He says, but you got to carry a cross. You got to follow me. And so let us always remember that even when, as Jesus himself said, the world hates us, and people sometimes hate us because of our morals. Absolutely, it's going to happen. They'll hate us because of the gospel. They'll hate us because God's word is more important than anybody's opinion to me. They will not want to be around us. They will despise us. They will belittle us. They will do everything they can to harm us. It's going to happen, sure. But I also have to remember that no matter what they do, there's one thing they can never take from me. And that is the knowledge that after I've carried that cross, there is a place for me that no one can take away. That I'm always loved in spite of what the world says. That I'm always wanted in spite of what the world says. That I'm always valuable in spite of what the world says, because someone was willing to die for me to ensure that I could have a place